All right. All righty. Gonna drop this link real quick. All right. Publish. Published. Okay, here we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for this daily medicine transmission. New moon in Capricorn happened at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So we are many hours past this new moon. It was also in conjunction with Pluto. So we're going to talk about that. The moon moves into Aquarius today as well. And there are some other very major transits that are happening today as well. Mars is going to square Saturn today. Again, these fixed square energies with Aquarius and Taurus still very active within our framework here. Also, Venus in Capricorn is in a trine with Uranus, just a day away from stationing direct. Uranus is slowing to a grinding halt right now, and Venus in Capricorn is in a trine. And then throughout the day, the Aquarian moon is going to make a lot of the same aspects that Mercury did not that long ago, a sextile to Chiron, conjunct with Saturn, conjunct with Jupiter, square Uranus as well. And so again, looking to the future and now having a very personalized and intuitive and emotional experience of this future-oriented direction is in a square to the natural unfoldment and the fixed earth energy of Taurus. Mars square Saturn is not an easy, it's not an easy aspect to begin with. And then to have Mars in an earth sign, Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to be very, very interesting. And I want to expand on it. Of course, I talked a lot about this in the astrology report that's here on YouTube as well. But since we are now here at the day, with the new moon and these two really very strong and potent aspects that go along with it, plus the Aquarius moon that is finishing out our day as well after the new moon was exact. There is just a lot that's going to be going on, and we're going to be I don't want to say we're going to be tested because it feels like that's been the case all along, but with this new moon, it was and does symbolize this commitment to this goal, this transcendent goal, this spiritual goal that we have for the awakening. And it will especially conjunct with Pluto in Capricorn as well, at the same degree that Saturn and Pluto were conjunct last year to the day. So this cycle has really played itself out on a larger stage, a global stage, large planetary cycles with Saturn and Pluto, and now it's coming back to the personal and the individual experience. And what we are sitting with right now in the next couple of weeks is our own individual journey about this commitment to a transcendent goal. We have spent the whole last year going through the experience of what Saturn and Pluto came together and activated and crystallized into form, which was the destruction of the old. That is everything that Pluto represents, especially in Capricorn. Now, Pluto came into Capricorn in 2008, so this has been a very long process. The United States is going to have a Pluto return in just a couple of years. We're just now getting into that window of being within 3 degrees of the United States Pluto. So that we still have time here before this really strong reckoning with the United States specifically comes back around. Nobody has a lifetime where they get a Pluto return because it takes 200 plus years for Pluto to make an orbit around the sun. But the birth of a country, of institutions, things, those larger cycles definitely come back around for a reckoning. And in the next couple of years, we're going to experience that, increase over time. But this particular lunar cycle is our moment here for each of us to commit to this goal. So let's see what we got here. Good morning, Luann. Just kind of checking out the chat right now and see what's going on with people. So good to see you, Luann. I'm excited that you jumped over onto this platform. And, I forgot to hit record. Okay, well, I guess I won't be putting this one on BitChute today, but that is also coming if you are interested in other alternative tech platforms to get this information. It's coming. It's a busy time right now, and not to mention that there is so much taking over our attention, and this is really going to be the focus of today's transmission. But I do want to keep talking about the astrology just a little bit so that people can get a sense of what to expect from today, potentially, right? The forecast, the astrological forecast. So it's good to see everybody. If you're catching this on the replay, thank you so much for being here. And it's truly my pleasure and my honor to be here, to be doing this work with all of you and for myself as well. So we had the new moon conjunct Pluto. It's very interesting when you talk about entering this transcendent goal, right? Entering the convent, the woman entering the convent. It is the discipline that goes along with it. It's paradoxical, right? Because the discipline is what leads to our inner freedom and our own sovereignty. And with Pluto coming along for the ride, like pulling the thread of that sweater out until we are basically naked, it really coincides with when you give up everything, right? When you make the decision to let go of all of the social trappings, of all of the aspects of our culture that we have participated in. And that's not to say it's good or bad. In the Vedic tradition, and I don't even necessarily want to say in Hinduism, I think it's way broader than that, but in the Vedic tradition, it's about the time later in your life, 40s and 50s, when you make a decision then you've raised your family, you've had your career, you've built a household, you've performed your duties. That's a very Capricornian thing. And when you get to a point in your life at the end of this time, kind of moving into that Aquarian time, you let go of everything and you focus on a lifestyle that is purely meant to commit to this goal, this transcendence, your spiritual life, and you let everything go. Oftentimes you have a very ascetic life, right? You either go off into the woods, you let go of all of your worldly possessions, you even let go of your family. And so I'm not suggesting that we have to let go of all of these things, but Pluto is going to do it for us with this moon, this new moon in a conjunction with Pluto. We have to just let the process unfold, which is very much where Mars is right now in the early parts of Taurus, is trusting the natural cycle that is very fixed and just a matter of accepting the soil in which we are planted and waiting for the natural communion, right? The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is not something that we necessarily need to seek, which is very difficult for Mars. Mars is the superhero, the action hero, the warrior class, right? There is action behind everything Mars does. And so even being in a situation with recognizing that the pot of gold, quote unquote, is really about committing to our covenant with our higher self, to our relationship with Source or with God. If we even recognizing that is a natural process that's unfolding, Mars is very much on the go with that. In this square to Saturn, Saturn is that boundary of responsibility, that boundary of time, that boundary of physical reality, of the energetic matrix that we're part of, regardless of what dimension we find ourselves in. It's still part of the picture here. And with Saturn in Aquarius, it's really drawing our attention towards the responsibility that we have to find harmony, use our spiritual energy to bring things back into harmonious balance rather than searching for the riches as a result of it. This is going to be very difficult with Mars squaring Saturn today, and the moon coming into Aquarius. We are going to have a much stronger connection emotionally with the Aquarian aspect, with the responsibility of connecting to our spiritual energy and using it as a means to bring balance back to what is otherwise disharmonious, okay? And this is going to be a real struggle, I think, for a lot of people who are really looking for answers. They're really looking for that pot of gold. They're anxious for it. They're searching for it. They want to fight for it. And this is going to put us in a position where we will have to find a way to relieve that tension somehow, either by leaning into it and allowing it to show us the way, and just letting it be. And so when we get into the transmission, you'll see here that the center of this is the divine feminine, again, is here now. And what is that? About receiving. It's about holding space. It's about the emptiness that allows for new creation to come in. It is, in fact, Taurus. And Mars being in this position is very, I think, is a real challenge to that part of us that really wants to act on these things. So, again, change is coming, as you can see here. And it's a natural change, right? It's a harmonious change. It is part of the balance of contrasts that we live with in this universe. And so there's no stopping that. There's never any stopping this. And it's really about holding space and healing right now. So with Venus in a trine to Uranus retrograde, just one more day, it's going to station direct. And that's when things are really going to start activating. And in this moment, again, Venus, as you can see at the center of this reading, and we'll talk more about it, holding that space as the Empress, right? This is maternity. This is the Mother Earth. This is the divine feminine incarnate in physical form, the mother, and the abundance. Right? Actual abundance. And she's holding that abundance in a trine to Uranus today. If we can hold this resonance today, and not just today, moving into the future here, if we can hold this space of receiving and abundance and allowing this natural process to unfold, then we will be able to really create a container for the voice of source, the voice of the divine mother to move through us. And this is going to allow us to actually see the best case scenario, to see the path ahead and connect to it. We can't do this just with our mind, which is really, really a lot of what's been going on here, if you can see. So this trine, this Earth trine between Venus and Uranus today is really going to serve us if we can connect into the Venus in Capricorn energy. Now, the difference between Taurus is that it is fixed Earth. Capricorn is cardinal Earth. There is movement and momentum here because there is something unfolding. There is action built into the element when we have Capricorn. It is the engine of nature, right? It is the replication of our cells. It is the copying of the DNA. It is the building blocks of life in the process. And now Venus, as much as she wants to, as being the passive and receptive Mother Earth, the living soil herself, as much as she wants to be there, and we need to be there with her, she also is representing the fact that part of that eventually leads to, it's the medium for which all of this grows. And if we can recognize that we have to create the space to begin with in order for that to happen, it is going to allow us to see the future. And that could be literal, right? That could be literal when we're talking about our intuition, we're talking about our psychic channel. And as you'll see here, the Oracle of Delphi is one of our gifts and guidance cards. It's about our intuitive insight and our ability to not only perceive, but interpret. And we can't keep doing this just with our mind. So the moon in Aquarius, like I said, is going to sextile Chiron, is going to meet Jupiter. And so there will be this sense of looking towards the future. And with the moon, though, this allows us to connect very directly to the spiritual energy of Aquarius, as opposed to just completely losing our sense of sovereignty and just being a nameless, faceless part of this hive mind, right? That's definitely a potential with the moon here, because there's an aloofness and a detachment here. But Jupiter is the leader of our belief systems, is the defender of our collective values, a defender and the leader of all that we hold as truth. And it's really expanding upon the fact that all of this is a performance. It's a performance in order to release collective energies. And if we can see it as that, then we can heal a lot of the empowered victim wounding that is really coming to the surface right now. And at the same time, it is going to provide, connecting with where we are headed, again, is going to provide a challenge with where Uranus is today, because we still have to be grounded. So the feminine, the divine feminine, the Empress today, this is really the heart of where we can situate ourselves. And the new moon is giving us the chance to set intentions for this goal over the next couple weeks, to hold the space and to be committed to it, to be disciplined about it, because it's really this discipline that leads to our own inner freedom and actual sovereignty. So that's the astrology part. So let's get right into the transmission. Hi, happy new moon, Meg. I'm looking at the chat right now. So it's definitely new moon energy, time to set those intentions and plant those seeds, literally plant those seeds, right? That's what it's for. And if you're into gardening by the moon, that's exactly when you do want to plant seeds in the ground, is with a waning and new moon when it's dark. So it gives the seed a chance to really embed itself into the space in which it's going to grow. And I think we've really struggled with this. Now, the thing about Pluto that we have to remember is, and I believe it was on Michael Luton Facebook page, so I can't take credit for this, but it really resonated with me in terms of actually being able to mentally conceptualize the stages of destruction and transformation, because there's a period in the middle there. So you have destruction and then you have transformation, but there's something that is in the middle, and it's emptiness. And this is, again, why it's so important that we embrace the feminine, because that is what that represents: the darkness, the void, the space in between in which things are allowed to grow, the dark soil under the surface. These are all really important things that we need to keep in mind. If we don't make space, if we don't embed ourselves into the space and allow it to hold us, we can't really transform after the destruction. And I think people are going to really struggle with this, the emptiness, because we've been filling the emptiness with so much just noise, right? And it's not going to serve, in my opinion, it's not going to serve us in the end. And Mars in, as it gets further and further into Taurus, is going to have, it's going to struggle more and more. That part of us is going to struggle more and more as it gets more dense, as it gets more embedded, as it gets much more into that dark space. So I think our responsibility right now, again, is to use the emotional energy that Aquarius represents in order to find balance and harmony. And to, if you're a healer, if you're an energy worker, if you're a reader, starseed, light worker, all of that stuff, our job right now is to be, our responsibility is to be using our toolkit in order to be healing and to offer healing in any way that makes sense to us. So let's get right into this reading. As you can see the spread here, I think you can actually be able to, on your screen, you might be able to zoom in on it, which is really great. So we're going to start with the energy coming into the moment, which 2 cards came out. So the Knight of Swords, there we go. The Knight of Swords and the Devil, Capricorn, right? So here's our new moon energy, our Pluto energy in Capricorn. Now they're both reversed as well. So let's talk about this, all right? So the Knight of Swords, the Knight is, oh, that's not it. There's the Knight. The Knight of Swords, this is the fire of air, okay? This is, you can see here, right? It's kind of low on the horse, has the wings, it's like a propeller, right? And you can, if you zoom in, you can see that he's got daggers out, right? And there's motion, there's momentum, there's movement. Now, at its best, you know, this is very clever, and very logical and, very sharp, right? And there's a goal oriented here. There's transformation that's involved with the Knight of Swords, and the court cards represent us as people, actual personification of this archetype, okay? So when it's reversed, you know, it's, you know, it is not well suited. So this tends to put either logic and the mental aspects before anything else, right? Just the mind, not having any tenderness, emotional depth, no grounding. And the fire aspect of it is really, the warrior. See, here we go with Mars again. Could be cold and analytical. There's that Aquarian aspect that is very detached, and there's no warmth or humanity here. And it can be deceitful. It can degenerate to being deceitful because it's really just about winning the argument and using the mental capacities to get somewhere. Mind games. Now, this is not my word, but wow, when I read it, I was like, yes. Mind games can turn into cloud cuckoo land without inner reflection. I've been really feeling that lately, right? The mental gymnastics in order to put some things into a box that maybe are just uncomfortable to deal with have been remarkable lately. And we're unable to decide simply because we're getting lost in too many variations, right? You're just getting, again, just all caught up, and there is a lot of movement and with this card, and we are very active, but it's not really going anywhere, and we're just dissipating our energy. Now, along with this, because we have the Devil also reversed, right? So the Devil, if you look at this card, let's look at this card upright for a minute. You know, the goat has a good smile on its face. You know, you can see the 2 cells here, the zygotes, they are in the process of splitting. If you see it, and all these bodies are trapped, this is, you know, the Capricornian physical matrix, right? The wheel of karma, reincarnation. If you get trapped on the wheel, you keep coming back over and over. And it is the engine of nature. It is the, you know, the aspect of natural life that goes on and on and on that Capricorn represents. And it's inevitable. It's part of being here, right? It's part of being in physical reality. So there's nothing evil about this. The problem is that it's a trap when you think that this is the end all be all. And so this is where, honestly, this is where, because the devil and Satan tend to be, you know, interchangeable, and I'm not really sure that they're the same thing personally, but that's just my conception of it. But let's just talk about it for a second. You know, in satanic worship, for instance, it's the idea that this is the end of it, right? There's nothing else except this physical reality. So if that's what you believe, then anything goes, right? Anything goes. There's no spiritual energy that pulls the group together. There's no connection to source. It's just the physical gratification. And when you get stuck there, then that's the trap. I would say this is more Satan than the devil. Or I guess Lucifer. I guess that's what I'm talking about. That's a totally different conversation. What I'm trying to say is that there's nothing necessarily evil about any of these things. But because it's about the feminine matrix unfolding. This is part of being here. Now, when we are in this reversal like this, I think that we are trapped, right? And with the Knight of Swords in its reversal, and the fact that we are just unable to make any decisions, we're getting lost in all the variations, we are not having inner reflection, and now we're just like in fantasy land. I mean, cloud cuckoo land is what was written. Those are not my words. That's the words when it comes to the Knight of Swords reverse. That's so funny. We're trapped. We're trapped in this cycle. Right? We're trapped in this endless stream of mental activity trying to find our footing, and we are just staying trapped in this, right? We're not seeing past this physical aspect right now. And that is very clear to me, very strongly clear that we are just trapped in this, vortex right now of energy that is not going anywhere and is degenerating. We're like deceiving ourselves. And that's the thing about the devil, right? Or Satan, is the deception that this is all there is. And boy, I think that we are getting trapped collectively in this. So this is the energy coming into the moment for this new moon, right? And Pluto is certainly going to do the destructive process for us, and will pull away everything that we've relied on, so that we will have nothing left but this bare floor, and a very ascetic life in some ways that forces us to focus only in on our spiritual transcendence, right? You get rid of everything else. And we have, I think, been really caught up in the trap of it all. And Pluto is going to help us in this process, okay? Now, what's here at the heart of it? It's the Empress, right? Venus in Taurus, and Venus, right? The mother. This is the mother. Maternity, love, mercy, the great mother, the power of nature, and abundance. So this is the divine feminine right here, right now, in this moment. She's so beautiful, and she's very loving and tender, and she's warm and kind. This is the mother archetype. So in this present moment, we have this beautiful divine feminine energy holding space for us. Venus, okay, who we love, what's valuable to us, this abundance on a physical level is right here. So take that for what it's worth in the heart of the moment right now, as we come in, as what's coming into the moment is this swirling of ideas that's going nowhere, and like being trapped in the wheel of physical reality and not seeing and past it. And the moon in Aquarius is certainly going to help this to a certain extent today, I believe. Now, what do we see? What are we aware of? Where is our attention meant to be right now? Well, this is the master artisan, the 8 of keys. You can see here that he is teaching, right? He's got his apprentices in his workshop. He's teaching them the craft, and he has been putting out a lot of his own energy in order to teach others. Now, in a reversal, this is a time of receiving, a time of great return, okay? This is, we've worked hard, and we've brought all of our energy to bear in making a contribution to humanity. A lot of people have been working very hard to get information out. They've been working very hard to hold space for other people, to express themselves in order to be a beacon for other people. Now it's time to start receiving, okay? It's time for the universe to give back, as opposed to us being the master artisan and teaching other people and trying to pass on our knowledge and our gifts. And it's not to say this won't come back, but right now it's time to receive. It's time to get the return. And this is where our attention really needs to be focused right now, I think, is in the receiving of everything that we have put out, because we do need to contract in a certain way in order to connect to the divine feminine. We have to contract in order to be able to receive. We can't just keep outputting and outputting and outputting like the Knight of Swords. It's not going anywhere. It's leaving us trapped. And so it's time to start receiving, start being open to receiving. instead of continuing to try to, keep teaching others and putting out, right? Now, what we don't see here is, but very much at the root of things and is soon to manifest, I'm sure, it's really Archangel Raphael, which is about healing, which is about miracles, right? This is a beautiful energy. So hold on one second. Let me get my notes here more accessible. Okay. So love and family and miracles and healing, and, he's very personified, and you can see that there are no wings associated with Raphael in this picture. He's also number 8, which is that divine intervention. But he's got this green orb here, which is, sometimes you can, the heart chakra, he's got that green tone to it. It's also, sometimes Raphael carries the caduceus of healing, but this person will come as a person. That's why there's no wings necessarily associated with this archangel, because they often are personified in some way in order to be directly accessible as a healer or a guide or a teacher. So there's a time of great achievement and a renewal of a lost dream, but at the root of things right now is incredible healing and a miracle and blessings, okay? Again, we have to be open to receive this if we want to actually experience it. And part of that is, again, aligning with the divine feminine, with this mother energy, with the being connected to the living soil, the medium for growth. And instead of outputting, it's time to allow the return, because at the root of this is really about healing and miracles and a time of achievement and a renewal. That's a big part of this as well. And so Raphael, you can see actually, if you look even deeper here, you can see that not only there's a green orb, but right over his heart chakra is the pink energy as well. Those two aspects are very strongly related to the heart chakra, the green and the pink energy. And so rose quartz, right? That's a big part of it. And green is the hertz, the energy of 600 something hertz. So you can look it up. You know what it is. Resonates at that frequency. The concert F as well is the tone that goes along with this. Okay, so again, it's about healing, and it's about love and compassion. And healing really comes from this space, right? This heart space, because once we heal at this level, a lot of other things can realign in our bodies, in our relationships. Okay, so that's really at the root here, is this healing element. So where are we going? Well, here we are, is the 2 of discs again, right? The change. And so we come from a place that's all this swirling around of ideas and trying to, really use our minds exclusively to get somewhere and feeling trapped. Now we come to this moment of the divine feminine. This will lead to harmonious change, okay? This is, again, about shifting from the yang to the yin, from the masculine to the feminine. It's a very seamless and fluid change, and it's very much part of nature. And so we had this yesterday, which was, again, the worry that preceded the moment, right? The Mercury and Taurus, the 5 of discs, we're worried and worried and worried. And then the change comes, a natural harmonious change in our physical reality. Just drowning in the delusion, right? And we've been seeing that quite a bit, haven't we? That there's just been so much distraction and fog and all of these intoxicating ideas that sound really great, but it just come up short because they're false, right? Because the only real truth is within each of us. We're not going to find it out there. So if we come into this moment of this divine feminine, the natural change will come about, okay? And if we're open to receiving, if we understand that this is about healing and coming through with a renewal, more than anything happening outside of us that's going to say, oh yes, okay, everything's fine now. That's not what this is about. We have to create the space. And this new moon is really about the next couple of weeks fulfilling that intention. Now, when it comes to this master artisan, I think people really are going to struggle with this because they've been so used, and I understand this because I'm on the same boat, been so used to being the outputter, sharing information, dropping links, dropping, the videos and posts and just putting it out there and putting it out there and putting it out there and helping people. It's time again to step back and to receive so that we can get a download of a whole new piece of information. Remember, Uranus is at the woman at the well, right? She was able to have a direct connection with Jesus as God because she was an outcast from her own community. It allowed her to be able to see into the potential because she was not clinging to or even accepted by the community that she was part of, right? Her own lineage, right? Being a Samaritan. So if we want to be able to harness our psychic gifts right now and to be able to see into this place, we really do need to step back and stop outputting so much and be in this receptive mode. So we do have the Oracle of Delphi that reminds us that there are two aspects here to psychic intuition, which is perception and interpretation. So I think we need to focus in on the perception part, number one, because it's receiving, right? The priestess is the receiver, right? She receives the messages as a result of her position, right? And it's the priest that is the one that does the interpretation. But I think this is way more focused on the perception part right now. And we are in a position of great insight and psychic power, but this will require, I think, for us to step back from that master artisan type of role where we are teaching, when we are passing off our information, as we're standing in some sort of authoritative position of a master. It's time to receive, and so that we can receive insight, right? We can't do it if we keep... We have to be quiet. We have to be still if we want to get any kind of insight, because we need to right now. Now, along with that is the penguin, and it says, the period of darkness that you've been experiencing is now passing. So that's also goes along too with Archangel Raphael, in that the root of all of this is this renewal. But I think this is meant to give us some support in that we can step back a little bit. We don't have to keep outputting so much. And if we realize that, if we trust that that period is passing, that the feminine is here now, and darkness is part of the feminine archetype because it's about space to create. But this is much more about the dark night of the soul. I think that for those of us who are usually putting out so much, I think that this part of the darkness is passing, and this allows us to feel safe, and it allows us to feel secure and stepping back a little bit and being willing to receive more insight right now. Because it's a constant process. It's always going, and it's always changing, and it's always shifting. And so we release, and now we contract. Okay. Now, when it comes to Archangel Raphael, the manatee, our good friend, the sea cow, accept the situation as it is rather than fighting to change it. Just like the Knight of Swords, just like Mars right now, fighting and fighting and fighting to change it, fighting with our own minds to change things. Just accept it for what it is. Okay. That's where the real healing is going to come in. And the Akashic Library is also reversed, which usually suggests, so we have the Oracle of Delphi at the top, number one, and then we have the Akashic Library, number two. So these two very basic aspects of perception, interpretation, and then also getting into the depth of our Akash are really important right now. This is about our own personal spiritual journey for planetary ascension, okay? So when it's reversed like this, it's time to go deeper, right? We've been distracted. We've stepped away from our inner guidance, and we need to step back into the Akashic Library and go much deeper and focus, right? The Oracle of Delphi, again, remember perception and interpretation. And part of that is being very knowledgeable and aware and have gone deeper into ourselves. And I think that another layer is unlocking right now, okay? We feel like that we maybe know everything that's happening. And I suspect that part of this needing to go into this receptive space and really embracing the divine feminine, not to say that it's just us, of course, it's a cycle that is now coming forward, but I also suspect that the sense that I'm getting is that there's a new layer unlocking right now, and we need to be able to see this. And that's, Uranus, again, is going to go direct in the degree of the Good Samaritan. So, again, that's going to be shaking things up tremendously. And we need to be very still and quiet, and it's time to go even deeper and not just assume that we have it all, okay? And not fight it either, not fight the whole process that's happening. It's here for our healing and for this process to unfold. All of it is exactly as it needs to be. So if it's not lining up with what you think it should be, maybe it's time to take a step back and start giving your inner guidance a little bit more space in order to come forward, because we have been clogging our own inner news cycle so much that I don't think we're allowing ourselves the ability or the space to really be open to what's coming. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Happy new moon, everybody. I hope that you're setting some, planting those seeds, right? It's not going to be an easy process, but it will be worth it in the end. And the moon in Aquarius can be really beautiful, right? It can allow us to not just detach from our emotions necessarily, but not to let them define us, and use our feelings as a barometer, right? Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, is in Aquarius right now, a barometer to be able to measure the changes in pressure, right? We need to be able to feel that within us. And of course, the moon does represent that inner landscape. And so we need to be able to feel that change in pressure, be able to detect the subtle shifts, because it is our responsibility right now to use our spiritual energies as light workers and star seeds and wanderers, whatever you identify yourself as, is to bring harmony to what is otherwise out of balance right now. And there's a whole new world coming. We all know that. And even if we can connect to that emotionally and we can feel it within us, we still have to go through the natural process of it unfolding. That's just the reality of being here. And that's the beautiful thing about the Empress and Venus, right? Is that she's perfectly content with things naturally unfolding, because that's what feels right to her. So this is a really good message for today to just keep in mind. So I hope that you've heeded this transmission as much as I have. I've really needed this message as much as probably a lot of other people right now. And so, please take care of yourself. If you feel so called to subscribe, hit the like button. It definitely spreads the word. If you're interested in a reading, you can go to catalystenergies.net. Everything is in the description box. If you want to sign up for the mailing list, that would be great. We can keep in touch. That way, I'm going to be sending out regular communications that way. So, and it's obviously it's free. You just go to the website. There's a splash page that comes right up. You can just sign up. And you'll be getting communication from me soon. If you're interested in a reading, check out the services tab and see what speaks to you. You can get a reading just like this. Astrology, my Starseed package is on sale until, I was going to do it till January 21st, but I might extend it all the way into the spring equinox, because it's by far my most popular and in-depth package. And it's really just been life-changing for me and my clients. So you can always check out the testimonial page if you're curious to see what people have to say about it. And I love you all so much. I will see you for tomorrow's Yeah, tomorrow's the 14th. I'll see you tomorrow for the daily medicine as Uranus goes